Hello everybody, Chris here, and in this video I wanted to talk about whether or not you should pay money for software and apps. So the basis of this discussion is that there's really no intrinsic value to software products. They are essentially free to copy from one device to another device, and it's very different compared to, let's say, building a house or building a car, where it takes up physical materials and a lot of labor in order to duplicate a house or to duplicate a car. So really, whenever you pay for a software download, it's not really costing that company much of anything except for the bandwidth to download the file, the electricity to keep the server running, and where the real cost is of course in the time that it took to develop that product. So as a result of it being so easy to just copy software products, a lot of the different apps that exist out there, especially in mobile devices, have been made free. In fact, I might go so far as to say the vast majority of apps on mobile devices are free. And that doesn't mean that they don't make any money. The developers or the companies behind them may choose to make it ad-supported, though from what I've heard, that's not often a very successful model unless you have huge amounts of traffic, kind of similar to YouTube. But then there's also the freemium model, which is where you basically pay nothing to download it initially, but they try to hook you, see how awesome our app is or our program is, and then if you want extra features, you got to pay for that. So, for instance, CyberGhost VPN is a good example of that, where they basically give you access to their servers, being able to make yourself anonymous behind a VPN for free, which is actually really awesome. A lot of VPNs don't do that. But then if you want to be able to do things like torrent or to have multiple devices or multiple devices on the premium account, a better example is really that you want to have it on Linux, where the Windows client just doesn't work for that, so you need to have the premium so that you can get the credentials. But yeah, basically they give you a few features up front, and then if you want more, you got to pay later. And that has been a pretty successful model in general too. So that's kind of where the market's standing at right now. Like, should software be free? Because a lot of programs have gone that direction, where they're at least free initially, or they might be supported by ads, which means that you're really buying you get like hooked into buying the products that companies are advertising. Oh, I mean, you know how ads work anyway. But instead of getting paid by you, they just get paid by the advertisers. So what are some reasons why you should still buy software? And then what are some reasons why you shouldn't buy software? Why yes? Well, for one thing, if you just go download a free app, the odds are that the product support isn't going to be very good, because who would want to spend time and effort trying to fix the problems of someone who isn't even paying compared to a paying customer? Because if they're going to have a dedicated support team and they're not making a lot of money off of the app, then those support technicians or developers or whoever are going to be quite costly. So really, a company can only provide that if they're making enough money off of you to justify it. And yeah, and most people aren't going to need to actually contact them about the app. I don't know what the exact numbers are. Maybe it's like 1 in 5, 1 in 10, 1 in 20. So if it costs them an hour of time, which comes out, I don't know, like $15, $20 an hour or something like that, to service you, who paid like $10 an hour, it works out if 10 people paid for the service and only one of them needed to actually use that technical support. But anyway, the point is that when you actually are paying for a product, the company can invest more time and effort into giving you tech support. And usually when you do buy software, that tech support comes free. If you were to just kind of go contact some random company about, fixing your problem because your program isn't working, that could end up being pretty costly, potentially a lot more than the $10, $20, $30 you actually paid just to buy the program. So yeah, that's definitely a plus there. Next up, specialized products may exist where there are no free alternatives, or no alternatives that are actually good. And I think this particularly applies in professional software products. So things like video editors or web design graphic tools like Adobe Premiere and Photoshop, maybe less so with Photoshop because I do think GIMP is a great alternative. But on Windows, I haven't really seen any good video editors that come close to Adobe Premiere. There's probably some good paid ones, but not so much with the free ones yet. So from time to time, there will be products where you just don't want to try to go with the cheap option. It's going to hurt you in the long run, or it won't give you the tools you need, especially if you're trying to do something at a professional capacity. Yeah, I mean, you just might have to shell out quite a bit of money for it because it's very complicated software. It's not easy for random companies to just go and replicate. And then certain companies also have a long history with these kinds of products. Microsoft Word would be a good example, where Microsoft Word and Microsoft Office has been a really solid platform for a long time. Microsoft Office even has a great competitor, which is LibreOffice now. So I'm not even sure I could include that in the specialized professional product package, or category rather. But yeah, there are some cases where you have to pay for the good stuff because that's what your profession demands. Another good example would be like 3D modeling programs like Maya or 3ds Max. I mean, Blender does exist, but I'm not sure if you really want to be using that for professional work. Okay, so next up, necessary company licenses. So if you are with a business, and this video, of course, is more targeted at end home consumers, but if you have a business and let's say it's a development shop and you guys are all coding in C# or C++ or something like that, and you want to have a unified IDE, integrated development environment, like Visual Studio, which I think is really sick, then for professional capacities, they're going to require you to pay for basically professional licenses at the company level, which can be quite expensive, but at the same time, it's a professional tool that you need to get the job done. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to development specifically, there's always free alternatives, but when you get to the bigger companies, I don't know if you just want to throw Visual Studio away to use the free stuff. I haven't had to make that decision because obviously I'm not running a giant web development or just app development conglomerate or anything. But yeah, if you're in a big company, kind of in the specialized professional products category, you just might need to get the software because that's what you need to get the job done, period. So next up, if you already love the product, like this is a product you've already been using, like let's say CC Cleaner is a tool I like to use for cleaning up my registry and emptying my trash bin. Okay, it does a little bit more than that, but it's a tool I've relied on for probably 5 or 8 years. Now they do have a professional version. I haven't decided to upgrade to that, but it's more worthy of a consideration when you already trust the product. So if the product's good at the free level, you would expect that it's going to be good at the premium level too. And this is how the freemium model works, really, where you aren't going to feel as bad about upgrading to the pro version because A, you've already gotten so much value out of the product, and B, you're pretty confident that if you upgrade, it's going to be worth the money. So in those cases, I think it's easier to justify the increase because it's already a product you use, right? If you go spend $50 on a product you've never used, it might be the case that you just don't use it a week later because you decided that I don't need this after all. So if you already love the product, I feel it's a better buy to actually justify, okay, you can have $20, $50 for that software product. I know it's going to be worth it. And that's why the freemium model actually makes sense. Right, and I would say if you are a person who has more money to spend, if you already prefer quality in everything that you use, maybe you're like an iPhone user or something like that, and you have to have the latest one, and you're just more willing to shell out money for products that exist out there, then in most cases, paying for a premium service or a premium software product is going to get you better results than the free alternatives. Now, that might not be true in 100% of cases, but generally speaking, the things you pay the most for have the best quality. I mean, if you think of like a sports car versus like a very basic used, I don't know, like 1995 pickup truck or something like that, the sports car is probably going to be way more awesome. But you're also paying 40 times more for it or something like that. But maybe not 40 times more. I'm thinking like the really fancy ones. Um, so yeah, if you're willing to spend money for quality, then it does make sense to just pay for the software products. I mean, in general, they're not really that expensive anyway when you factor in how much work actually goes into making those products, but they're able to sell them pretty cheap because they're easy to replicate. So here's some reasons why why you shouldn't buy software products, or reasons to consider not buying them. As I've kind of mentioned already, there are good free alternatives for actually almost everything out there in terms of like Windows apps, mobile phone apps, Linux, especially. Almost everything's free on Linux because it's all open source community projects and stuff. So you can usually find a good free alternative for whatever you're trying to do. You want photo editing? Go with GIMP, the GNU image manipulation program. It's awesome. I don't know, like you want free communication? Get Skype. Free for at least communicating from computer to computer. You want, I don't know, is there a paid web browser? That's like you want a web browser, you want to browse the internet, just Firefox, Chrome. You want to edit web files at a basic level, download Notepad++ or Eclipse IDE or Aptana. Let's see what else. You want to listen to music? Download Spotify. What else could there be? I mean, if you do want a free video editor, Kdenlive isn't too bad, but the Windows version has been a bit unstable. I'm hoping that Kdenlive gets a lot better on Windows when they finally get around to releasing more like the official stable release for that. So yeah, like pretty much anything you want to do on the computer or on your phones, there's going to be a free app for it somewhere. It may not have the best quality, but in most cases, there's something good that's free out there, and maybe it's ad supported, maybe they have a freemium model, but you can definitely do just fine without really paying for software. I mean, even if you want an operating system, just get Linux instead of Windows. Now, that might mean you can't game as much. Another alternative would be if you really need Windows or you really like Windows, which I think most people do. Then just get a computer that has Windows pre-installed. Like, I think on Amazon you can get like a $250, $300 laptop that comes with Windows 10. Where if you bought Windows 10 out of the box, it's like $100. So it's like, oh, why not just buy a new computer? Screw it. And then for another reason why you should consider not buying software products, it's that sometimes the product just isn't worth the cost or isn't worth the cost specifically for you. So an example of this would be with Photoshop. If you are not someone who really needs to heavily do design work or heavily just edit graphics in general, you don't care about editing photos, or you might do it like just once, then paying for like a subscription model for like the, what do they call it? Photoshop CC, Creative Cloud? Yeah, Creative Cloud. Where it's like a monthly fee and you open the program up once a month. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to actually go ahead and pay for it. But on the other hand, if it's something that you really do feel you need and you are going to use it a lot, then it's a lot easier to justify the cost. But sometimes it's just like you only need basic features because you're not a heavy user of it. So it's just fine to grab the free product. Like, for instance, antivirus, I think a lot of people would do just okay with a free antivirus rather than upgrading to the premium version. A lot of protecting your computer from like getting infected with viruses just happens to be not doing stupid things on the internet. So as long as you kind of maintain what you're doing and you're not like clicking on those spam emails that say that you got $5 million or something like that, then for the most part, you'll be okay. But then also you'll come across the occasional kind of spammy product where it's just way overpriced or it doesn't even do what it's asking or what it says it will do. And in that case, it's just more of a bad software product to begin with, and maybe you wouldn't even download it for free if you knew better. But yeah, you do want to be careful about buying certain apps. I've seen people go and grab certain system cleanup tools, and it's like they promise to fix everything on your computer, and then they do very little in reality. Um, but because it's like, oh, it promises that it'll make you super secure and that kind of thing. So you just go pay the $50, $80 for it because you don't know better. Um, it's kind of like, well, you got gypped off a little bit. And if I was that guy, I'd probably try to get a refund. But, I don't think most people are really thinking about that on their day to day about, this product isn't actually that impressive. I should probably get a refund. So yeah, you got to be careful when you're buying software. You got to be careful when you're buying any kind of product, really. So I guess at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, should you buy software? Well, you can compare the free alternatives to the more professional grade stuff, the stuff that actually requires you to shell money out of your pocket. See if you actually need the features. If you don't need the features, then it's perfectly acceptable to stay on the free product. If you don't have a lot of money, it's probably fine to stay with the free products. But if you're trying to do something in a professional sense, or it really does make more sense to actually grab that product because it's something you really rely on, it's something you trust, it's something you feel is crucial to your day to day needs, whether that's business or home use, then it does make some sense to actually go ahead and buy the software. Yeah, I mean, with that said, though, by all means, if you can find a free program that does the same thing, go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with being a savvy consumer and kind of paying as little as possible to get as much as possible. I mean, that's kind of the nature of how markets work, right? You want to get the best product at the cheapest price, even if that price is free. Even if them being free means that it's hard to make money as a developer or something like that. So, yeah, anyway, so thanks everybody for watching. I've been Chris. I hope you found this video entertaining, if not insightful, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my future video content.